Hey guys, so today I'm going to let you know we're going to talk about Reconstruction, and in particular this thing I've got set up for you called Reconstruction Questions. I think it's Unit 2, Part 2, some kind of something. But still, as normal, we're going to go through this thing together and tell you how to best make this thing successful. So, number one, what was Lincoln's 10% plan? Y'all, Lincoln was, according to all the evidence, Lincoln was going to be the ex-Confederates' best shot at becoming re-Americanized. Not everyone agreed on exactly how to treat the people that just committed a rebellion, unsuccessful rebellion, mind you, but a rebellion against the United States. Some people saw this. Lincoln said, from his point of view, that this was like two brothers that had got into a big argument, a big fight. One side won, and it's now time for the fight to be over. Fight's over. Let's go back and sit at the table like brothers. That's Lincoln's point of view. Now, some other ones took a decidedly different turn. Some other people said that, no, we've got to completely change the American South because if it happened once, it can happen again. Lincoln's plan was the most lenient. I'm not so sure that it was the best plan, but then again, I'm not sure that either plan was the best plan for rebuilding the South. From Lincoln's point of view, Reconstruction meant rebuilding plus, except the 13th Amendment, plus 10% of the Confederates in every state declare allegiance to the United States, and then we're good. We're good. We're done. We're done. Welcome back. That was Lincoln's 10% plan, to allow 10% of the population to swear allegiance and an oath to the United States Constitution, including the 13th Amendment. Light sentence. Number two, what did radical Republicans want to do to the South? Well, now that's the other side of it. And the term for 100 some odd years has been radical Republicans. It makes, if you look at the word radical means like a vast, crazy departure from the norm, or from what other people are wanting to do. And I'm not so sure that it really applies here. Radical Republicans was a term that was given to some people that wanted to punish the Southern leadership for doing this war. I don't know that punishing Southern leadership for starting this war is out of the way. I mean, anyway. So what they wanted to do, they wanted to punish the South. Now, to be more precise, when we throw around words like North and South, it's a huge blanket statement. So it's not they wanted to punish the entire South. No, they wanted to punish the Confederate leadership that started this war. That's what they wanted. They wanted to punish Southern leadership, and they also wanted to help rebuild the psyche of the American South, to not allow this to happen again. Third, what did the Freedmen's Bureau do? And the Freedmen's Bureau, well, knowing that you're going to have some naturally sore feelings in the American South from losing, to not just from sore feelings, but maybe those sore feelings might even turn into something like out and out antagonism, like angry, not just sore about it, but straight up angry at Union soldiers that they see walking around them in the American South because of military reconstruction. And also, everyone knew even then that this war was about stopping slavery. Everybody knew it. And so that means if you end slavery and people will become citizens as they should have been from the beginning, That means they can compete for jobs and whatnot. Well, there'll be some people that are going to try to resist their integrating into the Southern population that can do stuff. And so, knowing that there will be resistance for many African Americans that have been freed, there'll be some people that will try to prevent them from getting houses, try to prevent them from getting loans, jobs. You'll have some people that are going to try to take advantage of the fact that they were not allowed to read and write and try to get them into bad contracts. So the Freedmen's Bureau is going to try to solve all those issues. It's a federal organization that's going to help to build schools, educate, read, write, arithmetic, the basics, for freed slaves who've been denied that for their entire lives. Help them negotiate living conditions, and help them get jobs. That's the Freedmen's Bureau. It did a lot of good. 4, what were the black codes in the South after the Civil War? Well, a lot of states, if you recall, a lot of states are going in the South. They're going to try to, as I said, resist, not just through state policies, but also through town and local and county policies. Try to resist this integration. For some reason, you think that, or they thought, for some reason they thought that if they just resisted and say no, it's not going to happen, that's going to stop it. Anyway, so a lot of southern states and towns and cities and counties inside those states are going to pass policies to try to get around this integration of freedmen into the American South, into the Southern civilization, so to speak. And the black codes, every state has their own set. Every town, every city has their own set of little ordinances, little laws that are designed to keep white and non-white separated, with the not just separation being the key, but if you separate them, to put the non-whites in a lesser category than the whites. That's what black codes. And every town did something different. But it was really just an attempt to resist making sure that people that had been in bondage and their entire ancestry had been in bondage since the 1600s into slavery, this was an attempt to prevent them from becoming full-fledged citizens, not just at the state level, but also on local level. When was Lincoln assassinated? It's so weird. The American Civil War and Lincoln's assassination happened, or the surrender of Robert E. Lee, the main general of the Confederate Army. His surrender and Lincoln's assassination came within days of each other. So it's when it's understood the war is over with. It's done, it's finished. But then Mr. Lincoln is assassinated soon after, which is going to be a shock to everybody. First president ever to be assassinated. Who became president after the assassination of Lincoln? Now I can give you the guy's name. The guy's name is Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson was a Tennessee politician that when the senators and representatives and U.S. Congress from the South, they all walked out. They walked out. Andrew Johnson of Tennessee did not. He stayed. And given the fact Mr. Lincoln in 1864 is going to recognize that the war is over. Abraham Lincoln knows the war is over by 64. His new term is going to be focused on reconciliation and bringing us back together. And who better to do that than a Southern congressman? That's why he picked him. Now, they did not like each other. They did not talk to each other. They hardly knew each other. But Andrew Johnson is about as far from being Abraham Lincoln as you nearly can get. Abraham Lincoln had said that he was focused on reconciliation. Andrew Johnson was not. Andrew Johnson wanted to, in some ways, punish the rich landholders, the rich slave owners, for causing this war. He saw them as being blamed. Okay, sure. But he was not so sure. Well, no, I think he was sure. I'm not so sure that he thought that we should have any equality between white and non-white Americans. In fact, he acted in many ways to make sure he deprived them of finding their full citizenship in the United States. He was a terrible politician, awful politician. I think he thought himself more of a king than a chief executive, and there's a big difference. So Lincoln had the political power, the political weight to make things that he wanted to happen. Johnson, not a nice guy. North Carolina produces not a lot of nice guys in American politics. In this case, Andrew Johnson, well, he was from around. He grew up in Raleigh, moved to Tennessee to further his political career. But Andrew Johnson may have been the absolute worst president to have at that particular point in time. So, Andrew Johnson, that's the answer. 7, how did the 14th Amendment define citizenship? Oh, I love this one. Okay. In 1866, by this point, the 14th Amendment makes the 14th change to the Constitution, an amendment. The word amendment basically means a change, an addition, an amendment. And so there are 14, by 1866, there are 14 changes that were made to the Constitution. And an amendment is hard to do. This reflects that, because there are 14 changes from 1788 to 1866. So over 80 years, only 14 changes had been made, and this is the kicker, 10 of those were immediately after the Constitution. That means since 1790, there have only been, when the 14th Amendment's passed, 4 amendments. And before the American Civil War, there had been 2 changes to the Constitution. Two in 70 years. Amendments are hard to pass, and they designed them that way. Right after the American Civil War, 3 got passed. Bam, bam, bam. The 13th Amendment says no more slavery. That's number 8. 13th Amendment says no more slavery. It's done, finished, except in cases that you have to do labor as part of your sentence for a crime in prison. So slavery does sort of exist with the 13th Amendment if it's for punishment for a crime. Otherwise, no. Go back to the previous question, number 7. The 14th Amendment is my favorite. If a person can have a favorite amendment, this might well be it. It says, every single person born in America, regardless of a previous condition of servitude, meaning if you're a slave or not, you're a citizen of this country. You're a citizen. Welcome. You're a citizen. It just turned, with those words, it took these people that had been regarded as property just 3 years prior by they even fought a war over it, from being seen as property to being on equal citizenship status with the people that thought they were property. Ha ha. And that's cool. But another cool part of the 14th Amendment is that not only do they now have equal citizenship, but the people that were guilty of organizing and setting up this war, this rebellion, this treason, are losing their citizenship status. So that would mean that people that were seen as property now have more citizenship rights than the people that saw them as property. So now that means that people that had been kept in bondage and treated like, they were slaves, they're now fuller citizens than the people that tried to keep or did keep them as slaves. In other words, this turned into this. and it says so by this way, right? It does it by this way. It says that any person, you know what? Better yet, I'm gonna read it to you because it makes me so happy. It's like so cool. It's like so cool. So it says in section 3, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or an elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, none of those guys, if they shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof, but Congress may by a vote of 2/3 of each house remove such disability. In other words, if you had anything to do with any insurrection, even back here or even now in 2022, and you're found, if it's been proven that you were engaged in an insurrection against the United States government, you can't serve in that government. You are banned, bud. Yeah. Now they can't undo that. If 2/3, which oddly enough actually happened, if 2/3 of Congress says, well, this guy, yeah, he did that, but we really need his help. Well, if Congress says that, then they can override that. And they did that during Reconstruction. And especially after Reconstruction. But 2/3 is a pretty high bar to pass over. Okay, so skipping to number 9, because we've already done number 8. Number 9, what did the 13th or 15th Amendment say about voting? I'll read that one to you too. The 15th Amendment to the Constitution says, I'm typing here. 15th Amendment to the Constitution says, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged, which means changed in any way, by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Period. Done. Now, you can be denied the right to vote because of an insurrection that you participated in. But 15th Amendment says, you can no longer ban people from voting. Period. By race or color or previous condition of servitude. Number 10, scalawags. Y'all, people that were called scalawags would never call themselves scalawags. So a lot of people that were here in the South felt that Reconstruction means rebuilding. A lot of the contracts to rebuild the American South were held by companies from the North, from northern states, but they're the ones that won the war. So a lot of northern businesses, when it was true, did come down south and rebuild some of the infrastructure. Now, some other people, and we're going to skip over to number 11, some people in the American South said, well, there are other people besides legit businesses. There are some people who are just coming down here to make money off us. Whenever some of us could do these jobs, and would say derogatory things like to some of these businessmen that you came down here just to prey on us. You probably poor back home. And everything you own has been wrapped up in a carpet bag, and you brought it down here to make money off us. And so some Southerners would call Northerners that came down here to help in the rebuilding effort one way or the other. Now, you're going to have some people that take advantage, that's true, but a lot of Southerners will call those Northerners that came down here to participate in Reconstruction carpetbaggers, to say, you ain't nothing. Now, to those same Southerners that didn't like carpetbaggers, the only thing worse than a carpetbagger is a scalawag. And a scalawag, what actually is a word used for a dung beetle in West Africa, which of course came over here from Africa. A dung beetle, a bug that rolls around balls of poo. That's a dung beetle. That's the scalawag. Scalawag equals dung beetle. The only thing worse than a carpetbagger to them is someone that helps, a Southerner that helps Reconstruction. Yeah, they would never call themselves scalawags, but a scalawag, dung beetle. You ain't nothing but a dung beetle. Roll around balls of poo all day because you're helping these guys. They're coming from the north. They're trying to rebuild the south. Anyway, so number 14, when did the KKK form? Which actually, number 15 answers this one too, Ku Klux Klan, which is, okay, just facts, Joey, just facts. KKK formed just after the American Civil War with the entire purpose of trying to intimidate and scare freedmen from voting, scare them from living in areas where you see a lot of whites, to prevent them from moving to places where they could better their own lives. And they used methods of intimidation, like dressing up as ghosts, of course, and sometimes committing like outright murder, burning houses. Like this was not a good group, and it was formed by an ex-Confederate general named Nathan Bedford Forrest to try to not just intimidate African Americans from participating in their constitutional approved rights and whatever, to participate in the U.S. government and state governments. It was intended to scare them into submission, honestly, and also to scare Northerners to go back. And as an extension, of course, scare any people that may be Jewish, all the, yeah. So that's what it was about. The organization still exists, but to a much lesser degree, rightfully so. But they were around, and it got bad enough. It got bad enough that in Wilmington in 1898, some members of that organization overthrew the racially diverse government of Wilmington, North Carolina. This Klan took over a city because it didn't like the fact that some non-white participants were in charge. This is the only time we've actually seen a successful insurrection in the United States. It was here in North Carolina. Of course it was. Number 16, the Compromise of 1877 is where you had two guys running for president and nobody cared. One was Rutherford B. Hayes of Ohio from the Republican Party. Another guy was Samuel J. Tilden, really popular guy. He was a Democrat from New York. And really, one of them thought, well, I'll put it this way. The election was very close between the two of them. From President Lincoln, you go Lincoln, Johnson, who was impeached, then Grant, who served 2 terms, and then this is this election, 1876. And the election was so close to the Electoral College, effectively, that that Rutherford B. Hayes and some members in Congress, Electoral College as well, are going to say, look, if you switch your votes over to Mr. Hayes, if you guys are voting for Tilden, if you switch over to Hayes and vote for me, Southern electors, people that have come back into the country, if you switch your vote to me from the Democrat Samuel J. Tilden, I'll end Reconstruction as soon as I get in office. And that was too much of a good deal for the Southern congressman to pass up. because they saw themselves coming right back into power. People that had engaged in the rebellion with the Confederacy, too much of a good offer to pass up, so they switched their votes in the election and voted for Rutherford B. Hayes, and he kept true to his promise and ended Reconstruction. And that meant that a lot of the ex-Confederates that helped start the war are going to be back in power in those states and also in the halls of Congress within 12 years of this war being over. And so number 17, who became president because of the Compromise of 1877? His name is Rutherford B. Hayes. And that does it. You guys have any questions? Of course, always let me know.